Welcome to our second lecture on food safety and sanitation. In our first lecture, we started discussing about introduction to food safety and sanitation, whereby we talked about some of the main concepts and terms associated with food safety and sanitation. Now, in this lecture, we are going to start by discussing about food safety and quality systems. A food safety system is a systematic approach that aims to prevent food safety hazards from causing adverse health effects on consumers, while a food quality system is a set of coordinated activities to direct and control food businesses to continually ensure food products meet certain standards in terms of food safety management. Therefore, these two systems are mainly made up of approaches and set of coordinated activities which are purposely designed for food businesses to follow in order to meet the required standards in terms of food safety management, and they they are in position, or they will be in position to meet these food safety management requirements by implementing assurance systems such as good agricultural practices, good hygienic practices, good manufacturing practices, then also by implementing assurance systems like hazard analysis and critical control point, and also by implementing food safety management systems such as ISO 22000, British Retail Consortium, and so on. And once they implement these systems, they will be able or in position of meeting their food safety and quality requirements. And once they meet these responsibilities, they will in turn be able to build good business reputations and brands. So, if food quality and safety systems are not being applied in food businesses, then the businesses stands a higher chance of wasting resources on producing risky or dangerous products, which may be rejected or, if accepted, may cause adverse health effects or serious health problems to the consumers. And therefore, businesses should always ensure applying these food safety and quality systems. If they apply these food safety and quality systems in their businesses, it will help to prevent food related diseases and death. This is because the food which they will be producing, will be safe, free of hazards, and hence it will not cause uh, food related diseases or food poisoning or foodborne diseases. But if not, the food that they will be producing may be unsafe and hence cause these diseases and sometimes uh, leads to death. And also applying the quality systems in the food helps to protect against the false allegation and loss of reputation. It also improves yields and reduce post-harvest losses. This one here is mainly achieved when the farmer follows good or applies good agricultural practices on the farm. And then also uh, reduces cost and allows better resource utilization. It helps to meet standards and technical regulations, because once these systems are being applied, then that means the business will be in position of meeting the standards that are required in terms of quality and safety. And then also those other technical regulations which are being put in place, they will be in position to meet them. And once that happens, that means there will be assurance that there's a good quality in the food products which they are producing. Then applying this system also enables producing to buyers' requirements reliably and consistently. Because once in a business, uh, the food safety and quality systems are applied, that means what the products that are being always produced will be consistently of good qualities, and hence consumers can rely on the business. Then it also helps to improve potential for growth and participation in international and regional market. This is because applying these systems help to build a good reputation. And once a good reputation has been built, that means the business stands a higher chance, or the food product that is being produced by that particular company or business will stand a higher chance of winning the market. And hence, when it wins the market, that means both domestic and international trade will be possible for the business or for the company. And that's of course, the dream of each and every businessman and women. Then, if the quality systems are not applied, there are always some setbacks which are attributed to it. And when the quality systems are not applied, the following are the disadvantages which are associated to it. One, your effort and time will be lost in first making a defective product and then repairing it. So, if you don't apply the safety and quality system, you may end up producing a product which is defective. And once that happens, that means you are going to waste time and effort in repairing that product which is defective. Then also, there will be time and effort wasted in recalling your product from consumers. It can be the customer, the market, or any other user. So this is because once you have produced a product which is defective, or which is having hazard, that's generally unsafe for consumption, you will be forced to recall the product from wherever you have distributed them. And this comes with a lot of wastage of time, effort, and also resources such as money. Then also, not applying these quality systems can waste time and effort in resolving customers' complaints, because there will always be complaint when customers or consumers receive a product or a food product which is unsafe or defective. Then you have to create time for solving their complaint. Then also, uh, not applying this system may make your business lose future business, especially when the customers remains dissatisfied with your product or your services. And this this tells us that always when we are producing food product, we should ensure that we produce the one which are of good quality and the ones which are safe, so that your customers will always be satisfied of the product and the quality, and safe in terms of quality and safety. And in case of any disease or death caused by your product, there will always be legal proceedings that may be initiated against your company. And once these legal proceedings are initiated against your company, there is a possibility of jail time and bankruptcy. So, looking at these disadvantages, uh, it reminds us that applying this safety and quality system is always cheaper compared to not applying this food safety and quality system. Therefore, all those who are involved in food businesses should always ensure that the food product which they are producing are safe and of good quality, and they can ensure that by implementing or applying the food safety and quality system. Now, uh, as we know, inspection and end product testing for quality is always something which is very, very important, so that we shall be able to know whether the product which are being produced to be distributed to the customers are of good quality and safe for their consumption. But now, you will realize that relying on final inspection and end product testing for quality has proven inadequate and ineffective because one, contamination can still take place between the testing facility and point of consumption, e.g., during transit and interim storage or temporary storage. So, since the product are being tested at the final point or at the end, then in the process, sometimes these products will be transported and then stored temporarily in a place to await testing and inspection. And in the due process, there is always a possibility of contamination taking place between the testing facility and the point of consumption, because during the transportation, contamination can also occur. During the time of temporary storage, contamination can also occur. Therefore, always relying on the final inspection and end product testing is not always inadequate. It is not always adequate, and it is ineffective. And the other reason as why relying on final inspection and end product testing is ineffective and inadequate is because even by testing large numbers of samples, there is a high probability or chances of contamination, because sometimes the end product may be many in number, and therefore getting samples from all these products uh, will require a lot of time. And also, in the process of obtaining samples for testing from these different products can increase the chances of these products being contaminated. And then also, relying on final inspection and end product testing allows for carrying on work until problems are detected, e.g., during testing and inspection, and hence wastage of time, effort, and resources on faulty products. This is reminding us that it is important to always carry out inspection and testing when the product is being developed, rather than waiting for the product to first be developed and then tested after it being developed. Because if it is done after, there is a likelihood of wasting time, effort, and resources on developing a faulty product. But if the process of developing all the procedures used for developing this product is inspected and tested or monitored as it is ongoing. Then problems can be identified, and when the problems are identified, it can be corrected before the final product is out. And that one will help to prevent wastage of time, effort, and resources on making faulty product. Then there are some common food safety requirement systems that are being used in food businesses. But besides this common food safety requirement system, there are many other food safety systems that are used and you are going to meet in future. So for now, we are going to look at the common ones, the common food safety requirement system. And this uh, food safety requirement system includes prerequisite programs such as good agricultural practices, good manufacturing practices. Then we have good hygienic practices, and then also we have what we call hazard analysis and critical control points. And then the other common food safety requirement system that we are going to discuss is the ISO 22000. And so we can start by discussing briefly on prerequisite programs. Prerequisite programs are basic conditions and activities that are necessary to maintain a hygienic environment throughout the food chain, suitable for the production, handling, and provision of safe end products and safe food for human consumption. And these prerequisite programs include good agricultural practices, good manufacturing practices, and good hygienic practices. When we talk of good agricultural practices, we mean the practices that ensure environmental, economical, social sustainability for on-farm practices and post-production practices, resulting in safe and quality food and non-food agricultural practices. So, good agricultural practices are the measures, all the things, all the practices that a farmer does on the farm. It can be in terms of the environment, the economics, and then the social ways uh, that enable or ensures that the food that is produced from the farm is safe and of good quality. So, good hygienic practices refers to all the practices regarding the conditions and measures necessary to ensure the safety and suitability of food at all stages of food chain. So, when we talk of good hygienic practices, we are looking at all those conditions and measures that are being put in place to ensure that there is a safety and suitability of food at all stages of the food chain. And this one basically is talking about the hygienic practices that we are entitled to when we are handling uh, food at any or all the stages of the food supply chain. And these hygienic practices focuses more or should be embraced when we are dealing with the facility. Well, that means the facility design, and we have to always maintain the facility in a good hygienic way. And then also, these hygienic practices includes equipment design and also maintenance, documentation, process validation, corrective and preventive actions, traceability, management of incidents and product recall, job training and competence, hygiene and sanitation, waste removal, pest control, product contamination control, prevention of cross-contamination, dispatch and transport, packaging and labeling, food safety and quality. So at all these points, we have to ensure that there is a good hygienic practices for the safety of the food. Then the next common food safety requirement system that we are going to discuss is the hazard analysis and critical control points. Hazard analysis and critical control point is a system which identifies, evaluates, and controls hazards which are significant for food safety. And this definition reminds us that not all hazards are significant for food safety, and therefore we have to always be able to identify, evaluate, and control those hazards which are significant of, for food safety, meaning that we only zero down to hazards which can cause adverse health effects, hazards which can cause food poison, hazards which can cause foodborne diseases. But those ones which are not in position of uh, making the food unsafe, we don't deal with them under hazard analysis and critical control point. Therefore, food safety is addressed through the analysis and control of biological, chemical, and physical hazards from raw material production, procurement, and handling to manufacturing, distribution, and consumption of the finished products. And we have to note that for the introduction of hazard analysis and critical control point to be effective, prerequisite programs such as good agricultural practices, good manufacturing practices, and good hygienic practices should function effectively. But if these prerequisite programs are not functioning effectively, even if we introduce hazard analysis and critical control point, it will be ineffective. Then the next common food safety requirement system that we are briefly going to talk about is ISO 22000. ISO 22000 is a food safety requirement system which specifies the requirements for a food safety management system where an organization in the food chain needs to demonstrate its ability to control food safety hazards in order to ensure that food is safe for consumption. So it means that the ISO 22000 is having those recommendations or those guiding principles that uh, food businesses should always follow in order to ensure that they can control food safety hazards so that the food they are producing or the food product that they are producing are always the one which are safe for human consumption. And also uh, it entails or has those activities that can be used to test whether an organization has got the ability to control food hazards in order to ensure that the food they are producing is safe for consumption or not. Then this system specifies how to carry out hazard analysis, which basically involves the four steps. That is a that is a collecting information about the hazards, then evaluating the hazards, then understanding the hazards, and then deciding whether the hazard is of significance for food safety or not. Then it also specifies how to design the hazard analysis critical control point plan. It also specifies how to design the prerequisite programs and to decide which are operational prerequisite programs. So the ISO 22000 was developed basing on the assumption that most effective food systems are designed, operated, and continually improved within the framework of an organization's structured management system. So that is it with the common food safety system, common food safety requirement uh, system. Now we can then look at some of the steps in meeting main steps in meeting food safety system requirements. And the main steps which are involved in meeting food safety system requirements are: one, form a multidisciplinary team for food safety. So whenever you want to meet, or a food business wants to meet the food safety requirement, the first step that the business has to put in place is to form a multidisciplinary team for the food safety, and so that this team will be the one to oversee food safety. Then after forming the multidisciplinary team for food safety, then train the team on food safety and system requirements, because there are always food safety and system requirements that are being put in place for food businesses to follow. And therefore, these multidisciplinary team members have to be trained on these requirements so that they know, and hence they will, if they know, they will be able to follow them as they are uh, producing the food products. Then chart the process and their flow. That means you have to come up with a process flow diagram which will help people to follow, or which will help the multidisciplinary team members to follow as they are trying to implement uh, the, the activities which are being planned. Then after uh, making the chart showing the process and their flow, you can then go ahead and develop a food safety plan with the responsibilities. So you have to go ahead and start planning how the food safety and system requirements can be met. You have to plan, and as you are planning, you have to attach responsibilities. And after doing that, you can now go ahead and develop and document standard operating procedures, which includes stepwise action for each task, each monitoring, corrective and preventive actions. Then after doing that, you train all the personnel, especially the ones who are in the multidisciplinary team. You train all of them on how to implement the procedures. Because if they are not trained, they will not be able to implement the procedures. That's why you have to train them. Then after training the personnel on how to implement the procedures, you go ahead and implement. And then after implementing, you record. We know Record keeping is very important because record keeping provides evidences that procedures are being followed. And record keeping also is a good means for improvement and control. That's why uh, after as implementation is going on, uh, all the processes has to be recorded. Then after that, you verify or audit. The objective of verification or auditing is to make sure the system is working as designed and the food safety and quality objectives are being met. So it is very important to do that because once you don't do it, you will not be able to know whether the quality objectives are met or not. Or you will not be in position of knowing whether the system is working as you have planned or not. Then after verifying or auditing, you go to the next step and the last step, which is a review and update. And this review and update is being done by the top management. Therefore, the top management should review the food safety systems at a planned interval to ensure continuing suitability, adequacy, and effectiveness. So, if the top management do not review and update, they will not be in position of ensuring continuity, suitability, adequacy, and effectiveness of what the process is all about. So during the review, opportunities for improvement are assessed and the food safety plan are uh, updated. So once you review and update, that means you will be in position of improving the system. In case you have identified problems as they were implementing the procedures, then during the time of review and update, you are going to update or make those changes so that um, the the whole process works well, the plan works well. And these are the main steps in meeting food safety system requirements. And with that, we can then now look at the 5 keys to safer foods according to the World Health Organization. So, according to the World Health Organization, there are mainly keys to safer food. If we want the food product or the food we are consuming to remain safe, we have to uh, embrace the 5 keys to safer food. And the first key to safer food is keep food clean. Keep food clean. And by this, the World Health Organization means we have to keep uh, the food clean by ensuring that the food surfaces are clean, wash all the utensils, plates, platters, cutleries, and so many things which may get contact with the food as soon as they are used. And then, as we are keeping the food clean, we have to take note of the following to enable us to achieve that, keeping the food clean. Uh, we have to make sure that we wash our hands before handling food and often during food preparation. And then we have to always wash our hands every time we are exposed to germs, especially after going to the toilet, blowing our nose, smoking, handling raw foods, touching unclean surfaces, handling trash, and so on. Then also, we can keep our food clean by washing and sanitizing all the surfaces and equipments used for food preparation. And we can also keep our food clean by making sure that utensils, especially those from which you are eating or drinking or in which you are cooking, are always clean, in that they don't come into contact with raw foods, especially the meat, poultry, and eggs. Because if that happens, there is always a cross contamination that can take place. Then we have to protect our kitchen areas and food from insects, pests, and other animals. Have to keep our food covered, maybe in containers, and whenever needed, they have to be refrigerated. We have to keep food preparation area clean and in good condition by repairing the cracks if they have any, fill holes if they have any, and so on. Then we should not neglect the rubbish area. By this we mean we have to keep it clean and tidy and remove rubbish daily. Or also we can clean and dry all the equipment, including the cleaning equipment, as germs can grow fast in damp places. So those are the recommendations which are being given to us by World Health Organization to make sure that we keep our food clean. Because when we keep our food clean, that means our foods will be safe for consumption. Then the next keys to safer food according to World Health Organization is separate raw food from cooked food. And here we mainly have to make sure that we separate raw meat, poultry, and seafoods from other foods at all stages, from cleaning, storing, preparation, and cooking, because these foods are more vulnerable to food hazards compared to other foods. And therefore, if we mix them with other foods, there is always a cross contamination which can occur. Then we have to use separate equipments, utensils, including uh, wiping clothes for handling raw foods, then use them for other foods always only after washing with hot water and soap. Therefore, the, the equipments or utensils that we have used for raw foods, especially the meat, the poultry, and then the eggs, should always be separate. We should not use it for other foods, not until we we clean or wash them with hot water and soap. Then we should not let juices or liquids from raw foods, especially raw meats, poultry, and seafood, to spill or seep onto other surfaces or come into contact with cooked or other raw food to avoid cross contamination. Then we have to store food in covered containers to avoid cross contamination between raw and prepared food. So these are all done to ensure that uh, the raw food are separated from cooked food so that cross contamination does not take place. And if so, foods will remain safe for consumption. Then the next key to safer food is cook food thoroughly. Cook food thoroughly. So we have to always ensure that food is cooked thoroughly, and we can cook food thoroughly uh, by ensure that we heat the food to appropriate temperatures. And how will you know that you have cooked the food thoroughly, especially uh, raw foods like meat, poultry, eggs, and seafoods which are vulnerable to food hazards. You can know it when the juices from these meats, seafood, poultry, and eggs are not pink but are clear. Because when the juices are still pink, that means it has not cooked thoroughly, and therefore there's a possibility of microorganisms still thriving in the food. But if the soup is clear, that means it has cooked thoroughly, and therefore, even if there had been some microorganism in the food product, those microorganisms uh, uh, are already killed by the high temperature in the food. And that's why it is always is noted that microorganisms can multiply very quickly if food is, is stored at room temperature. And this tells us that we have to always make sure that we heat the food to an appropriate temperature, which can kill the microorganism. So if the food is being heated to a temperature which is not appropriate, or that one which cannot kill the microorganism will still remain alive in the food, and when we consume it, it causes a problem to us. Then we have to keep food at safe temperatures, both for serving and storage. Here, uh, by this, the World Health Organization uh, is recommending us do not leave cooked food at room temperature for more than 2 hours, because when we leave food for more than 2 hours, the food will get cold, and when the food get cold, you know what happens? Microorganisms can easily gain entry and then start growing and multiplying in the food, and hence it can result in food poisoning or food-borne diseases. Then we have to refrigerate all cooked and perishable foods promptly so that they don't go bad. We have to keep cooked food very hot, above 60 degrees Celsius prior to serving, because this is because microorganisms can multiply very quickly if the food is at room temperature. So by holding the food at a temperature which is below 5 degrees Celsius or above 60 degrees Celsius, their growth is always slowed down or stopped. That's why we are always advised to eat food when it's still hot, above 60 degrees Celsius serving. Then do not store food too long in the refrigerator. Do not reheat refrigerator food more than once, because it is going to lose some of its characteristics, the flavor, the taste, the smell, and then that's it. Generally, the quality will be altered. The quality of the food will be altered. Then do not refreeze frozen food after thawing or cooking. This is also due to quality uh, reasons. Then the next key to safer food, according to the World Health Organization, is use safe water and raw materials. Uh, we are advised to always use safe water or treat water. Treat the water before using it, and you can treat the water by boiling it, chlorinating it, or filtrating it. And once it is being treated, it will make it safe for usage. That's safe for cooking, washing hands or utensils, and making drinks or ice. So we have to ensure that we use safe water, and if we know that or we suspect that the water is unsafe, we have to always treat it before we use it. Then we have to always select uh, fresh and wholesome foods as raw materials. By this we mean food which are not damaged or rotting. And then this food has to be selected from clean stores or places. Then we have to wash fruits and vegetables, especially if we want to eat them raw. We have to cut away damaged or bruised parts of fruits and vegetables since bacteria can thrive in these places. That is if the raw material that we are going to use have some of its parts damaged or bruised. Then we should not use food beyond their expired date because a food or a raw material that is expired is deficient in nutrients, and since the nutrients in it has been depleted, therefore the raw materials becomes useless for usage, uh, for using as a raw material in producing a food product. So with that, we can now look at the importance of food safety. All along, we had been talking about how can we make the food safe? How can we make the food safe for human consumption? And now, uh, let us now look at why is it important to always make sure food is safe. One of the reasons as to why uh, food has to be safe for human consumption is to ensure the provision of food security. Because if consumers are given unsafe food, they may, after eating the food, they may end up suffering from adverse health effects, meaning that the food product they are eating will not be able to do its intended use in their body. And if that one happens, the consumers becomes food insecure. The other importance of food safety is that food safety reduces health costs occurring due to food related diseases, because once the food product or the foods that we are consuming are safe, that means it will be free of food hazards which can cause foodborne diseases or foodborne illnesses or adverse health effects in our body. So if the food we are eating is not able to cause diseases to us, that means we shall have a reduced healthcare cost because we shall not be spending money on treating ourselves as a result of the disease caused by uh, consuming unsafe food. Then also, the other importance of food safety is that it reduces risk of foodborne diseases. Then it also prevents health illnesses. And food safety also helps to preserve the quality of food. We know that if the food becomes unsafe, that means there are a lot of characteristics within the food that has changed. Characteristics including the flavor, the smell, the taste, and so on will change if the food is unsafe, and hence the food will be unsuitable for human consumption. So always ensuring that foods remain safe at all stages of the food supply chain is very, very important for our health. Then we can now discuss about the principles of food safety. The principles of food safety aims at avoiding food from becoming unhygienic and causing food poisoning or foodborne diseases or adverse health effects. That is the main aim of the principle of food safety. And these principles of food safety includes the following. One, properly cleaning and sanitizing all surfaces, equipment, and utensils. And we know this is a very good because it helps to prevent cross contamination. Then the other principle is maintaining a high level of personal hygiene, especially hand washing. We have looked at the importance of hand washing as far as food safety is concerned. Uh, Apart from hand washing, there are other personal hygiene practices that we can put in place, like avoiding uh, working or handling food when you have open cuts, especially on your hands, because that one can contaminate the food easily. Then also, uh, we should make sure that we avoid going into the kitchen when we are sick. And then the other personal hygiene that we can embrace is by maintaining our fingernails short and clean, because these fingernails can harbor microorganisms or pathogens that can cause contamination and hence foodborne diseases. Then the next principle of food safety is storing, chilling, and heating food correctly with regards to temperature, environment, and then equipment. Always ensuring that food are heated to appropriate temperature is very, very important. And also ensuring that uh, chilling and heating of food are done correctly with regards to the environment and equipment is very, very important, because uh, if this is not followed, that means the quality and the safety of the food will be tampered with, and that is not encouraged. The next principle of food safety is implementing effective pest control, and then comprehending food allergies, food poisoning, and food intolerance. So these are the five principles that we have to follow in order to avoid our food from becoming unhygienic and causing foodborne illnesses, food poisoning, or adverse health effects when we consume them. Then, uh, with this, uh, we have known the benefits or the importance of food safety, and we have to also now understand what will happen or what are the bad sides or what are the harmful effects of poor food safety practices if we don't follow food safety principles. What are the harmful effects attributed to that? One, poor food safety practices can result into foodborne illnesses, and these foodborne illnesses can pose a threat or pose a threat to international public health safety and economic development. Why? Because once people get these foodborne diseases, they will have to incur cost on treating these diseases, and also they will be less productive, and this have got a great impact on the economic development of an individual and also of a country, because when most of the citizens are suffering from foodborne illnesses, that means the government will have to spend some of its revenue in procuring drugs for treating these diseases. Then also, poor food safety practices can increase in health cost treatment for both an individual and then also the government at large. Then it also uh, results into poor hygiene and sanitation at different level of food centers. If there is poor food safety practices, then there will be high prevalence rate of communicable diseases and non-communicable diseases. This is because most of the foodborne illnesses or diseases are communicable. So once there is poor food safety practices, people will get these foodborne illnesses, and these foodborne illnesses can spread easily from one person to another. Then also, uh, poor food safety practices result into ineffective functioning of the body, because once you ingest this food which is containing the hazards, uh, it will it will cause malfunctioning of your body. Then also, uh, it results into high cross contamination rate of the food, because if one food is contaminated and it gets contact with surfaces or other foods, then it causes the other foods to also get contaminated. That say there will be transfer of pathogens from the contaminated food to the uncontaminated food. So that's why always ensuring that we practice food safety is very important. And also, poor food safety practices result into decreased nutrients present in the food, because uh, some of the hazards, especially the microorganisms, they also uh, depend or rely on these nutrients for their growth and multiplication. Then also, poor food safety practices results into lack of freshness and not suitable for edible conditions, because the food will not be fresh, and hence it will not be suitable for consumption, because there will be a lot of changes, characteristics uh, which changes within the food. Then it results into food poisoning, which in turn leads to severe outcomes such as seizures, brain damage, or even death. Unsafe food creates a vicious cycle of disease and malnutrition. We know that always there is a vicious cycle of diseases and nutrition, whereby you find that if an individual is diseased, for our case now as a result of consuming unsafe food, if the person get foodborne diseases, that means the person is going to lose appetite, and this is going to result into poor nutrition. And if there's poor nutrition, uh, the immune system of the body of such a person will be compromised. And once the immune system is compromised, the person will be vulnerable to other diseases and infection. And therefore, the person can easily be attacked by any disease or infection, and the cycle continues. So, ensuring that food is always kept safe for consumption is very important. And mostly, This vicious cycle of disease and malnutrition affects the infants, young children, elderly, and then the sick. Then also, poor food safety practices can result into financial losses, less productive, spend more on healthcare costs if you are diseased as a result of consuming unsafe food. Then it can also lead into loss of businesses because once a business has produced a food product which is unsafe or a food product which has a result into death or caused adverse health effects or diseases to the consumers, then the business stands a high chance of losing its reputation and brands. And therefore, the business can easily collapse because customers will not buy the product which is produced by the business. Then also, it create a black mark in the business reputation. Then uh, poor food safety management can also result into fines for breaches of proper health and safety practices. Because now, this is especially when the product which is has produced, which had been produced, has caused death to humans after consuming. There are always legal proceedings that the business will have to always go through, and hence they will be fined. And once they are fined, it can easily result into bankruptcy or jail. So the these are the harmful effects of poor food safety practices, and it brings us to the end of our lecture. I thank you for your audience, and we catch up in our next lecture. Thank you.